Thank you so much for that. So I think he touched on something very important, which is resilience. Like he said, it took him many tries to create this extremely successful company, and it will take you. हर दिन पता है जब भी हम पैदा होते हैं उस टाइम से we need to be resilient. The first cry is the child saying, I will bounce back. But make your children believe in this bouncing back, because at every stage of life you're going to need it. So now coming to both Anurit and Anchal, please tell me, Anchal, how do you feel one can create and ensure a safe learning environment for one's child?
So firstly, maybe not pressure the child, but beyond that, actually ensure that your child is not your friend in terms of if you are having problems in your life, in your marriage, or in some aspect, you don't talk about those problems to your child because it will harm the child. The child will sit and think that they need to take care of you and not themselves. So that would hamper learning. So firstly, one thing to remember is your children are not your friends and they're not your emotional support. So to be able to tell your child, okay, you do your best, try to work hard, but it's no problem if that doesn't actually happen. So adding to that, I would just like to give all of you homework if you're willing to do it, just as an experiment and see what happens today with your children. At something your child does today, just look your child in the eye and say, I'm proud of you, and see what it does to your child and how do they behave with that. And as parents, how many times do we say that? So how much are we actually telling the child you need to study, and how much reward are we giving that to the child? I'd like to also just add one thing by saying that children aren't your extension. There are separate individual beings who want maybe separate things. And the more we respect them, the more open that they will be to learn. So even a 10-year-old will know what is their favorite subject and what do they want to study more. And to understand and give that agency to your child builds confidence, which will help in the learning process.
So Shaheen, coming to you. Yeah, you want to continue this question? I want to ask you one more. Yeah, you want to add? Please go ahead.
What Anchal very beautifully put out is we need to provide, like we just spoke about, a safe environment for our children, because the core place for the child is home. When they come home, they don't want to be judged. Can we provide them a non-judgmental space where you accept the kid the way the child is and help them to face the challenges? Arushi was talking about resilience. Where do they begin to see resilience happen? Their own parents. We are the role models who have to be present there to actually show them that we are fighting our own battles, and so you will also do that. Allow codependence, yet encourage independence. Rightly said by her, do not always keep on shadowing your kid. You're there to make the child feel okay with all the kind of feelings your kid comes with. So talk about feelings. Many a times we don't talk to our kids about how are you feeling today? What are you doing? What are your studies? That's what I changed as a therapist in my parents who came to me. That start feeling with your children. Teach them how to feel and change the feeling to better feeling. And when they can do that, life changes. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. All of these tips are really going to help us create safe spaces. So Shaheen, you really did create a safe space for many to resonate your feelings. You've written a wonderful book, I've Never Been Unhappier. It's also interesting how your book shattered the misconception that everybody who comes from a background which comes with certain privileges is always happy and living a fulfilled life. So what really prompted you to speak about depression as a whole and your life having to live through and with depression?
It was never, honestly, it was never a plan. I never planned to talk about it. But I think what I realized one day was how, literally the way that I first talked about my mental health was I was having a really terrible day. And I was lying in bed and I was looking for a picture to post on Instagram. because I was having social media FOMO, and I was like, I haven't posted something in a while, I should post something. And everything I was looking for was a happy picture. Everything I was looking for was completely at odds with how I was actually feeling. So I said, you know what, let me actually talk about how I'm feeling, because all we do constantly, what do you do? What's the first thing you do when somebody says, hey, how are you? Reflex, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. That's your reflex. Your reflex is I'm good. You're not actually answering the question. A, you don't think anyone's actually asking.
Yes.
But B, you're also not actually answering the question. We're constantly, I feel like we are all wearing masks all of the time. And they're just, it's how we're conditioned to be. And I realized I was just spending a lot of time and a lot of energy pretending to be something that I wasn't. So the first time I actually talked about my mental health in public, I was flabbergasted, honestly, by how many people would text me, call me, and say, listen, I have the exact same thing. I'm feeling the exact same way. I got so many messages from people saying, oh my God, I saw this post of yours, and I talked to my parents for the first time about going to therapy. And once you share how you're actually feeling, you realize that you're not alone in that. We all think that our fears and our insecurities are just ours and we're the only ones who feel that way, but that's because we don't talk to other people about it. As soon as you open up and talk to someone, you realize everybody is feeling something, everyone is going through something, everyone is hurting in some way or the other. So I think it was just really important for me to just start to have that conversation personally for myself. And it was partially a selfish thing. I wanted to stop hiding. I wanted to stop expending energy on pretending to be something that I wasn't. Because once I stopped doing that, I could actually focus on how I was feeling. So when somebody says, hey, how are you now? I say, not so good. I'm not. It's okay. I didn't sleep very well last night. I'm not doing very well. And not everyone can really deal with that. A lot of people are like, oh, okay, but I feel better doing it. So yeah, I think it was just really important for me to start having an honest discourse and an honest conversation. And I can't stress this enough. It's completely changed my life.
How wonderful. Let's hear it up for that, because I know one of the most daunting and most difficult things is facing yourself. Why is going to therapy so difficult? It is because it pains. It uncovers you. And we all need to stand up for ourselves and those children within us. It is connection over command, my dear parents, and it is acceptance over authority. Because सच तो ये है कि ये सिर्फ marks है, life का benchmark नहीं. So thank you so much, MTV, for putting this together, for all of us. A big shout out to Epigamia, our snack partners, Trijog, our wellness partners, Anchal's wonderful organization standing with us as our mental health and wellness partners as well. And we do have our helpline partners, which is Telemanas. On that note, with one word from our panel members on what is the one word they would like to leave parents with today is what I would like to close this panel on. So, Shaheen, what's that one word?
Compassion.
Compassion.
Self-love.
Self-love.
Reflection.
Reflection.
Don't advise, let them learn.
Learning. That's so beautiful. So, on that note of compassion, self love, reflection, and learning, we all are going to come together and be one and do our part for not only our children, but more importantly, even ourselves. Thank you so much. I am Arushi Sethi Shah, your host, Dost, your mental health advocate, and right here with you all in Skin and Spirit today. Thank you so much for having us. Abhimanyu? Okay. Student. So like we saw, right? We do, some of us like 90%, some of us we do, and that has been the level that we've always had to achieve. Anchal, coming to you, what were your struggles during your academic journey?
So I firstly think that I'm not good at math. I'm not good at science. But if you're not good at math and science, you're told to do maths and science. So then I thought, okay, fine, I will do business or law. Because those are the professions only that we respect, right? Nobody thinks a psychologist can make money, or a hairstylist or a tattoo artist can make money, but actually they do make lots of money. But we don't know about it, and nobody talks about it in schools, nobody talks about it to parents. So the struggles that I had were that I was really bad at concentrating in class, and mostly because, not because I was dumb, but because I came from a very troubled household where there would be fights, where things would happen. And we think, right, you know, if the child is studying in the other room, we are fighting, something is happening, or we are having financial problems, that the child's job is to focus on the studies and it won't affect the child. But in actuality, that affects the child a lot, and that affects the ability that the child has to study. So some of my struggles were around that time, and also studying subjects I really didn't like. Like, my strong suit is not writing an exam, it's speaking, which is why I'm trying to speak here.
And thank you so much for working on something that is not the most comfortable. सच तो यही है कि discomfort, and in discomfort lies our largest growth. So thank you for that. Parents, एक और question सबके लिए. Would we like if our child did everything right? Would they become better, more perfect and successful adults? अगर सही सब सही करते, हम बोलते हैं ना, don't do that, bad girl, bad boy, गलत है. सही करो, सही से बैठो, सही से wish करो. तो if our kids did everything right, वो better humans बन जाते. हमारी इतनी जागृत audience है. I'm loving it. Thank you. So Anurit, coming to you. Do parents often project their own aspirations and ambitions onto their children? And is that right to do?
So it would be a little unfair for me if I'd say that, yes, all parents do it, but mostly parents do that. So many a times you'll hear कि डॉक्टर के बच्चे तो डॉक्टर बनते हैं, engineer के engineer बनते हैं, artist के artist बनते हैं. And that's how it goes on. Yet enough, the truth is that right or not? We need to understand as parents that children come through us. They don't come from us. They're not supposed to carry on your dreams, aspirations, and what you have actually not been successfully achieved yourself. They are what they are with their own talents, passions, interest, aptitude, intelligence. And we as parents are actually we are supporters for them to go through their life journey in a way so that they first recognize and uncover these talents. They explore their own interests, look at their capabilities and abilities. Many a times we parents keep on struggling with them to make them reach the best scores academically, but they may not be interested. You'll be shocked to know, even now when I do career development with students, I have people coming at the age of 40 years when they want to change their line. They say that I'm an architect, I'm a lawyer, and like she was also just talking about it, you may want to do something and then decide this is not what I want to do. Because your passion and interest may not be there. So as parents, it's a real message for me, from me to all of you, that you may aspire a lot and you may dream. And we can do our own dreams and aspirations, fulfill them even at 60, because we are passionate about it. But please do not force that onto your child. Help your child recognize her own talents and actually explore that and come up and become the best versions of themselves. That's my real plea to all of you.
Thank you so much for that. That was beautiful. Children come to you, not from you. And to somebody who's been very close to me personally and also professionally, somebody I admire for the human being she is, my next question is to you, my mental health champion. Your parents have had a prolific film career, and mom herself has been an actor in many celebrated movies. Much of your environment is also focused on visible success, you know. I mean, who understands it better than you, seeing people day in and day out, which the limelight cannot get enough of? Did you, Shaheen, ever feel the pressure to achieve, extraordinary feats, awards, or feel like replicating your parents' success?
Yeah, I think definitely at one point or another. But I think like any child, because I think that's what we're talking about, primarily the thing that I wanted the most was to make my parents proud. Every child has that, right? I want my parents to be proud of me. I want them to feel good about the things that I'm doing, that I have done. And at that time, when I was in school and when I was in college, I think the only way that I felt I could achieve that was by doing well in school, by doing well in college, by acing my exams, by proving myself to be intelligent, by proving myself to be hardworking. And every time I fell short of that, it felt really bad. It felt horrible. And I was very lucky. My parents were really, really balanced about my academic journey. My mom always told me, she said, as long as you do your best, any outcome is absolutely fine. They never pressured me to be a top-ranking student in that sense. So I was very lucky, but it didn't, as much support as I got from them, that deep need, that desire within you doesn't really go away. It stays with you. And I just feel quite sad for myself as a child now when I look back, because I don't think any parent, when you hold your baby, I don't think you look at them and think, I will only be proud of you if you are a top-ranking student. I don't think any parent thinks that. And I think what happens is we get just very caught up in certain ideas of success. So when you talk about pressure to be successful, yes, at one time or another, I thought this is what success maybe is supposed to look like. And what I realized was that my idea of success was just slightly warped. I know a lot of very outwardly successful people, that are inwardly not very successful people, that are not very nice people, that are unpleasant people. So I think the question to really ask is, what is success? What does a successful person look like? Is it just the fact that you make a lot of money, that you do very well in school? Because I think it's so much more than that. It takes a lot of different facets to make a person well-rounded. And what the word success I use for want of a better word, but yeah, it takes a lot more than just one thing to make someone successful.
And that's so beautifully put. I think the pursuit needs to be one of excellence over success. Yeah, and thank you for sharing that with us. अंकुर सबको दही शक्कर खिलाने वाले. So, Ankur, I want to ask you, how has competitiveness in your academics contributed to your view of success in life, what we were just speaking about?
So I'll answer that in two parts. So competitive spirit, I believe, is very important, right? It's always important to strive for the next thing, to be the best version of yourself. And the second part is coming back to the core theme of the campaign. My issue is with, I mean, what do we define education as? Is it getting good marks? Is it me knowing 10 chapters of history, 10 chapters of geography? Or is it me building my foundation? Because when I'm at the student age, I'm building my foundation for what I will become as a person, down the line. So education for me is building that strong foundation, trying to understand, and it's okay to fail, right? I mean, if we are always winning, we'll never learn. And even at Epigamia, I mean, this cup did not come out right the first time. It took many tries, right? So I mean, it's okay to fail. You relearn, you redevelop, and then you strive to be the next best thing that you can be. So yeah, I mean, so my struggle was essentially on that, on what is education essentially, and how do I sort of incorporate the right essence of education. And so whenever I speak to any of my nephews or nieces, this is what I try to tell them as well. Like, do not worry about which college you're going. Do not worry about whether you want to take science or commerce. Think about what you want to do, and try to be that person, and learn from the environment, learn from your colleagues, from your parents, everyone around you.
Thank you so much for that. So I think he touched on something very important, which is resilience. Like he said, it took him many tries to create this extremely successful company, and it will take you. हर दिन पता है जब भी हम पैदा होते हैं उस time से we need to be resilient. The first cry is the child saying, I will bounce back. but make your children believe in this bouncing back, because at every stage of life you're going to need it. So now coming to both Anurit and Anchal, please tell me, Anchal, how do you feel one can create and ensure a safe learning environment for one's child?
So, firstly, maybe not pressure the child, but beyond that, actually ensure that your child is not your friend in terms of if you are having problems in your life, in your marriage, or in some aspect. You don't talk about those problems to your child because it will harm the child. The child will sit and think that they need to take care of you and not themselves. So that would hamper learning. So, firstly, one thing to remember is your children are not your friends and they're not your emotional support. So, to be able to tell your child, okay, you do your best, try to work hard, but it's no problem if that doesn't actually happen. So, adding to that, I would just like to give all of you homework if you're willing to do it, just as an experiment and see what happens today with your children. At something your child does today, just look your child in the eye and say, I'm proud of you, and see what it does to your child and how do they behave with that. And as parents, how many times do we say that? So how much are we actually telling the child you need to study, and how much reward are we giving that to the child? I like to also just add one thing by saying that children aren't your extension. There are separate individual beings who want maybe separate things. And the more we respect them, the more open that they will be to learn. So even a 10-year-old will know what is their favorite subject and what do they want to study more. And to understand and give that agency to your child builds confidence, which will help in the learning process.